Man City are paying the price for not paying the big money to sign Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice, because they had the chance in the summer and they didn't go for it. Now this season, Man City do not look as strong as before. They are struggling to control games and the opposing teams are able to take the game to them. Their defending is looking really bad. Defenders such as Ruben Dias and Guardiola especially have been caught making lazy mistakes. Already this season, they've lost matches to Arsenal, Wolves and Aston Villa. They then had draws with Chelsea, Liverpool and Tottenham, in where they conceded a combined total of 8 goals, and that's something we're not used to seeing. Another big reason for this is that their midfield is not good enough. İlkay Gündoğan was such an influential player for them and they've not replaced him properly. They've also got long-term injuries to Kevin De Bruyne and he's becoming less reliable to the squad each season. Now Man City themselves recognise that their midfield depth and quality is not good enough and it might leave them exposed during the season. So in the summer they tried to sign Declan Rice, and this was their first big mistake because they did not go hard to sign Declan Rice. Arsenal were always the favourites to sign, but City stabbed their toes in the transfer saga and made a £90 million bid. But then Arsenal upped their bid for Rice to £105 million, and Man City could have easily topped that bid, but they refused to go above the £90 million and they essentially let Arsenal win the Declan Rice bid. Now this is a massive mistake by Man City, because we're seeing now how influential Declan Rice has been for Arsenal, and Guardiola must be thinking how he got this very wrong. So every time Declan Rice performs well for Arsenal, and we're nearly halfway through the season and Rice is yet to have a single bad game, Man City will be wondering how they got their scouting very wrong. Rice is such an influential player at a young age and they dropped the ball in not signing him. Man City did put a bid of £90 million, so they clearly rated him as a player and they had plans in where to put him in their midfield alongside Rodri, but they did not think he was worth more than the £90 million, and Rice is showing that he's way more than the £90 million. There was also belief that City were just trying to up his transfer value to make their opponents pay more for that player. This is similar to what they did with Harry Maguire when they made Man United pay way over his value to sign Harry Maguire. But Declan Rice is showing he's no Harry Maguire and City messed up big time in not signing him. Now the next transfer saga was for Jude Bellingham, and this one went under everyone's radar because it was mostly kept quiet. So City tried very hard to sign Jude Bellingham in the summer from Borussia Dortmund. There were lots of teams in for Bellingham, but Real Madrid and Man City were the two of the biggest teams in contention to sign him. Reportedly, Guardiola had a 2-hour conversation with Bellingham to try convincing him to join City. They and Real Madrid put in similar offers and City offered slightly more higher wages to Bellingham. But Bellingham wanted to be a legend in Real Madrid, so he chose to go there. And Man City lost out on signing another big generational midfielder. And as the season progresses and we're seeing how good Bellingham is, it's showing how massive of a mistake that this was for City, because City has way more money than Real Madrid and they could have blown Real Madrid out the water with their transfer offer. Real Madrid got a bargain for £100 million for Bellingham. Now City had just won the treble and their financial situation meant they could have put in a crazy amount of money, maybe 150 million, 180 million, and Bellingham at that point would have had no choice but to sign for City because the money was just too good to turn down. They identified Bellingham as a great player, but I don't think Man City realised how special of a player Bellingham is. If Guardiola had seen the type of impact he would have made at Real Madrid, they would have no doubt gave Bellingham however much money he wanted. Similar to when Man City signed Erling Haaland, they correctly identified him as a special footballer and they made him instantly the highest paid player in the Premier League before he even kicked a ball in the league. And that was the correct thing to do, because Haaland is that good. But Bellingham is also that good, and they should have done everything to sign Bellingham, but they decided to be conservative with their money and they missed out on another generational player. So in the summer, Man City tried to sign two of the biggest midfielding talents on the transfer market in Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham, and both times they missed out on these two players because they did not want to get a crazy bidding war, and this was a clear mistake. They have the money, but they seem scared to spend it. They seem scared because of the negative perception around the world that Man City buy their way to success, and they wanted to show that they can find bargain signings and they don't need to splash their money every time to win trophies. But this was a mistake for City and they're showing the price in not flexing their financial muscle. So what do Man City do instead? Instead of signing Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham, they signed Kovacic for £25 million and they signed Matheus Nunes for £50 million. And none of these players have hit the ground running for City. They're more squad players instead of the bona fide superstars that Man City need. And it's underwhelming if you're a City fan to have Kovacic and Nunes in the midfield when instead you could have had Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice, two absolute generational superstar players. So in conclusion, Man City are left kicking themselves. They were scared to show off their financial might. They were scared to show how rich they could be. They were scared of how they were perceived, because the old Man City would have not cared how much money they spent and would have just bought the best players. They've learned the hard way now that missing out on these big time players can impact their season. Now I'm sure Man City will be itching to redeem themselves, so in the next transfer window they'll probably break the transfer record to sign a crazy player. They've been scared a little to take the gamble on big players. Jack Grealish is a good player, but he's not lived up to his £100 million price tag, and they don't want that situation to repeat itself. That's why they've been scared to spend that kind of money. But next transfer window I'm sure they will not care, and they're going to sign someone to redeem themselves. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the content.